I'm going to use Photopea to create a Sarah Beatson inspired digital shoe image. If you go File New, once you're inside Photopea, and choose Print A4 and Create. You need to open up your shoe picture that you'd like to work with. So I'm just going to open images. So if I hold down Control, I can get both of them. If you need to change the orientation of your page because your image is the other way, if you go to Image, Transform, rotate either that way or that way, it will turn the page. Okay, so I'm just unlocking the layer and I am going to get my shoes and drag them and drop them into my A4 page. If they're very small, you might have to resize. You need to be on the Move tool and have Transform controls selected. Then you just drag on the corner to make it smaller or bigger. Say yes. Okay, so I'm just gonna, on this layer, the background layer, make it a bit see-through so I can see my image that I'm doing on top. So this is really important. You need to draw on a separate layer. So I'm going to use this new layer icon here, which is like a page with a little turned up corner. So I get a layer on top. Then I'm going to select a pencil tool. I'm just going to turn it back to black and white, and I'm going to draw with a black line. So you need to check the size of your line. So I've just drawn that. That's about okay for an outline. So I'm just going to undo that. So the pencil tool allows you to create a really skillful outline. You can try and draw it with the stylus if you'd like, or you can simply use this technique as a good method. This leaves no gaps and it works really well. So if you click the pencil to start, and then hold down Shift, and wherever you've got a change in direction, you just click again. It's like dot to dot. So it joins the line together and it allows you to create straight and not wobbly lines as you might get with your stylus. Okay, so fast forward, we're going to imagine that I have traced that whole layer. I'm just going to open, if I hide that layer, you can see that I just have an illustration of the shoes. And if we go back to Sarah Beatson and have a little look at what she's done, we can start to add some colour and some background pattern. So that layer there, and actually I'm also going to delete the... Okay, so right now I have a background layer and I have an illustrative layer on top. Whilst I'm on the Move tool and I've got Transform controls, I can resize this to any size to put it wherever I'd like. Obviously with the top of the jeans cut off, it's going to have to go somewhere near the top of the page. Click the tip to say yes, and then we're going to paint the background layer. So definitely not working on the shoe layer, we're going to paint the background layer. For this you'd need the paintbrush tool. You can actually add a gradient if you'd like, first of all, that might be nice. So you can choose the colours here. If you pick a colour, so maybe I'll go for, in fact I'm going to go for a bluish greenish and a background. So I'll choose that as my gradient and say OK. And then I'm going to paint that gradient onto the background colour. So it goes on the background and not on the illustrative layer. I use the paintbrush to paint with a fuzzy brush. So if you use a fuzzy brush that's not hard, you can see it's got like a spray paint edge. Make the paintbrush quite big, choose the colour here. So I'm going to keep it sort of similar to the colours that are in the background anyway. That's quite small because if I hover over you can see how small that is on the background, so I'll just make the paintbrush a bit bigger. And you can kind of add streaks on as if you were painting with a real paintbrush. So you can also add. Now before, when I did this, my paintbrush selection was quite poor. It didn't have, oh, it doesn't again. Okay, so I am gonna go and look for some paintbrush. So download splatter brushes for Photoshop. So you go on this Brush Easy website. We're going to choose brushes, and I'm going to look for some splatter ones. So I am going to choose this spray here, which if you click it will save the brushes. It's back in Photopea. You can go to here and say load ABR. My wet spray brushes here. So I'm going to select it and say open. Load those paintbrush choices into my choice of brush. So when I go here now, I have an option to choose more brushes. So I'm going to pick this one here, and if I hover over the picture you can see what kind of brush that is. So I'm going to add a new layer and work on a layer in between these two, and I'm going to choose maybe this sort of colour. Okay, and I will splatter that there. So just one click will add the splatter effect. Now if I wanted it to be a bit less bold, I could change the opacity and this time add much fainter marks. So if I was to blob it there, that's gone on with much fainter marks. Maybe I'll put a faint bit up here as well. So you can see the effect of that. Obviously you can change the colour, you can change the brushes. Many brushes were added. You can see that there was all different kinds of splatter brushes added, so you can choose any of them to do that. So I'm going to add another layer. I'm going to show you how to add some shapes. So within the paintbrush tool you could actually just use a circle and make it quite big. A circle with full hardness, like when you click now you'll see that I get a solid circle. Obviously you can change the colour, and because I've put it on that layer you can sort of like hide it if you don't like it, or you can put it back if you do like it. You can even move it around if you want to. So bigger if you wanted to. All kinds of like options are available if you work on the separate layers. So you can add shapes that way. There is also a square as one of the presets. Those shapes that you could add. So there are shapes here. If you long press you'll get the option to choose different shapes. Custom shapes opens up a whole new menu over here. So this at the moment is set to draw with a triangle. So here there are letters, there are animals, all kinds of strange arrows. I might actually add this arrow, that's quite cool because it's a shape. Now it's filled in black. If I want it to fill with a different colour you just simply click there. If I want it to have an outline you simply click here and it can have a black outline or whatever coloured outline you want it to have. See when I click off it that it's got that yellow outline. If you don't want it to have an outline then you just change that to no outline. So you can add shapes, you can add text if you wanted to add some words. Go to here and then you just click and it will type with whatever font you've got here. You know how to use text, so you can choose the text, you can choose the size and you can type, and then that text will be on there too. So you need to do File, Save as PSD if you are still working on it, and it will save it in all the layers, and you can call it Beatson Digital, Beatson Shoes, something like that. You've finished it, go to File, Export as JPEG, and this will squash all the layers together, effectively glue them, and you can just call it Beatson Digital 1. Pull this up, it might be down here, pull this quality up to the top and say save, I didn't show you to fill in, how to fill in this, so I'm just going to go, I could fill in parts of, so I'm working on the illustration there, so you'll see here that I can fill in parts of the illustration using whatever colour is here. So if I wanted to colour his shoes in, then you just click, and if you've joined all your lines together and there's no gaps between them, then it will just fill the picture. And obviously you can leave background showing through. You can also move the illustration on top and kind of resize it, flip it, anything like that.